Let's talk about something you've probably wondered about. What exactly is the endless scroll of platforms like TikTok doing to our brains, especially when those brains are still in their most critical years of development? We're going to dive right into it. So, first things first, let me ask you a question. Is your brain still under construction? Now, you might be surprised to hear that if you're under the age of 25, the answer is a definite yes. And that one simple fact, well, it's the foundation for everything we're about to explore. You see, unlike a lot of other parts of our body, the human brain isn't just finished at birth. It's much more like a long-term construction project, one that's profoundly, and I mean profoundly, shaped by the experiences we have. And this brings us to a key scientific idea called developmental plasticity. Basically, your brain starts out as this soft, overconnected mesh. Imagine a jungle, just dense with possible pathways. Then, over time, your experiences act like an architect. They start pruning away the connections you don't use and strengthening the ones you do. This whole process creates a faster, more efficient network, and it keeps going well into your mid-20s. Now, during certain sensitive windows, think early childhood and the teenage years, it's like the metaphorical concrete is still wet. Experiences that happen during these times leave incredibly durable marks. They're literally shaping which of those neural pathways become superhighways and which ones just kind of fade into the background. So, how does all this connect to TikTok? Well, it's all about the training environment. And for a huge number of developing brains today, that main environment, it's the endless scroll. Just think about what a massive shift this is. For past generations, media came in these neat, tidy packages. TV shows had endings, books had chapters, there were built-in pauses. But today's algorithmic pacing, it's a completely different beast. It's an endless, personally targeted stream of super intense stimulation with basically zero downtime. And what's the result of that? Well, this rapid-fire environment gives certain brain circuits a crazy intense workout. We're talking about the short-range loops connecting your eyes, your ears, and your thumb. But at the same time, the slower, long-range circuits, the ones you need for deep reading or a long conversation, they're getting seriously underused. And the brain, it just adapts to whatever it's doing most often. Okay, so that's the theory. But what does the science actually show? Does this kind of constant training actually leave a physical mark on the brain? Let's take a look at the neurological evidence. A study in JAMA Pediatrics that looked at preschoolers found something pretty startling. Higher screen use was linked to lower white matter organization. Now, white matter is basically the brain's wiring, the cabling that connects everything. This suggests that the wiring was less robust in the exact pathways we need for language and self-control. And it's not an isolated finding. A massive study of older kids, around 9 and 10 years old, found similar patterns. Higher screen use was connected to actual physical changes in the cortex, that's the brain's outer layer, specifically in the areas that handle attention, decision-making, and reward. This really points to a widespread shift in the brain's overall balance. This quote from the research really just hits the nail on the head. It says that when the brain is constantly fed a diet of instant, high-intensity rewards, the neural pathways that support patience, the ones for engaging with slower, more complex stuff, they may get undertrained. It's kind of like only ever working out your fast-twitch muscles for sprinting and completely neglecting your endurance. But get this, these effects aren't just stuck inside the brain's cortex. They actually ripple outwards, creating a full-body experience that tunes our entire nervous system. To really get this, we need to talk about something called interoception. It's a fancy word, but it's just your brain's perception of what's happening inside your body. Your heart rate, your breathing, that feeling in your gut. This system is absolutely central to how we generate and experience emotions. It's how we feel our feelings. So what happens on TikTok? Well, this whole system gets sent on a wild roller coaster. You see a terrifying clip, then a cute puppy, then something arousing, all in less than a minute. Your internal system, your heart, your lungs, is constantly getting whipped from one state to another. And over time, this actually trains your body for volatility, making it way harder to interpret your own natural signals. And on top of all that, this whole thing is compounded by the physical context. You've got the blue light from the screen messing with melatonin and sleep, and then there's that curled up, immobile posture we all get into while scrolling, which kind of contracts our physical world, even while our sensory world is just exploding with information. Researchers say this can lead to something they call a fragmented body, or corpse morcellé. It's a mouthful, I know, but the idea is powerful. Instead of integrating a feeling like a tight chest or a racing heart into our broader sense of self, those sensations get isolated. And then they get matched to diagnostic labels we see on the app, which then starts to give us the script for what our internal feelings actually mean. So, where does all this leave us? What does it all add up to? Well, it points to a pretty startling conclusion. The algorithm is becoming the new pacemaker for human development. Historically, it was institutions like schools and families that set the rhythm for a child's day, creating a balance of different activities. What's happening now is that we've outsourced a huge part of that pacing function to algorithms, and their goals, which are all about maximizing engagement, are very, very different from our own. Because that goal is really just watch time. The environment for the developing brain is now being co-authored by a system that learns exactly what keeps you glued to the screen, and then it just feeds you more of it at a massive scale. It tilts the entire balance of what our brains practice toward those fast, reactive circuits. And so all of this leaves us with a really critical question, one we all have to think about. When our internal rhythms and our very attention are being trained by a system that's optimized just for engagement, how do we even begin to build a stable, coherent self?